101 ESPN.
It's the Bernie Show, along with Brian Feldman this week in Jupiter, Florida, at Roger Dean Stadium. And we have a lovely setup here with it's kind of a tent activity and all this equipment and video cameras. I think Ben Boyd needs to set up kind of an appetizer buffet for our visitors, like John Mozeliak. My suggestion was to set up kind of a little bit of a cocktail lounge thing, but that was vetoed by the general manager of the Cardinals. I also think that may be against station rules as well.
I just want food. That's all I want. I just want food. More food, the better.
We need a veranda here, I think. It
would be a nice touch.
Like a veranda. This tent's not good enough. We must build – 101 ESPN must build a veranda, I think, for next year's –
Is that in the budget?
Yeah, spring training. John Mozeliak, thanks for coming by. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me.
Albert Pujols said yesterday that he was tired of answering questions about his contract. So let us ask you one that you're tired of talking about, which is not his contract, actually, would be movement, roster movement. You're still in the I'm going to wait, and we're going to see what we need, and then we're going to diagnose it and then act if we have to act.
That's correct. I think – obviously, the first part of this camp, and it's only 5 days old, but it's been, knock on wood, very healthy camp. First time in years that we've had every pitcher that's here live and ready to go. So it's very encouraging from that end. Position players have been showing up over the last few days, and most of them look like they're in great shape. We have the one exception with Brendan Ryan, but for the most part, it's it's business as usual, and things are progressing.
Any of these guys look better to you physically than they did maybe a year ago? In other words, sometimes you can tell who really worked in the off season to improve their physique, improve something. You see anybody jump out at you?
Well, I think when you look at even someone like a Kinney, who lost about 12 pounds, I think he looks in very good shape. David Freese, which has been well documented, but for the most part, all these guys have showed up in shape. So it's not going to be the next few months or next few weeks, let's try to get them going. But, we're hitting this thing full throttle right now, and that's exciting.
Well, today Brendan Ryan spoke. He arrived, and he pretty much just sounded almost insulted by the chance that he may not be ready. He declared himself, no doubt about it, 100%, I will be ready for opening day. Is that just him being overly optimistic, or what do you think? Because he was genuinely convinced that he will be ready.
Well, I think that's definitely a part of it is how you are mentally about approaching your surgery. But, I think time will tell. I am bullish that he'll be okay. But, you can't hope for those things. You have to be prepared, and if things don't work out, then, we really need Tyler Green to have a very big camp. It's important for him this year.
In what ways do you think Tyler Green would be better this year compared to what we saw last year, where defensively he was actually pretty impressive, but and got off to a pretty good start offensively, but then something caught up to him? Is there some reason for optimism that he would play better this year?
Yeah, I would think so. Most guys that get their feet wet in the big leagues usually come back and do better. There's no doubt that it was a great experience for him last year. I think he got to see a lot of things that you just don't see at the AAA level, and I think the exposure was great for him. So for us to have a positive outlook on his contributions at the major league level, I think it's very reasonable and one that we think, given how he spent his offseason and what he's done to prepare, there's no reason why he couldn't do the job.
We're talking with the Cardinals GM John Mozeliak here on the Bernie Miklasz Show with Brian Feldman, 101 ESPN, and a little bit of a Tyler Green conversation going because the Cardinals may have to turn to him early going if Brendan Ryan's timetable's pushed back a little bit. In terms of the amount of ground that he can cover, in other words, I'm asking you to compare Ryan and Green defensively. Is Green close to what Ryan is defensively in terms of range?
I think they're close. There's no doubt that Brennan put on a show last year and showed that his range was about as good as anybody's in the game. And to try to put him to put Tyler Green in Brendan's same bucket, that might be a little unfair. But both are talented. Both can play at a above average defensively at the major league level. And when you build a club like we do, having a solid defensive shortstop makes a lot of sense.
Well, when you talk about third base, obviously the name that's been thrown out there the most, David Freese at first. And Tony said he's got a lot of points, I guess, based on a lot on what he did towards the end of the season in September there. What does he need to do to win that? Does he just have to not be terrible? Does he have to go out and be incredible? I mean, what exactly are you looking for based on naming him the starter as opposed to, okay, he's just going to get first crack?
Well, I think the first thing you got to think about is just where he is physically. And, last year he was never 100%. He always competed at a level that he wasn't quite comfortable at. This year he obviously had some off-the-field issues. So the second part of this is where is he mentally. I think when you take both of those factors in there, he is in great shape. He is healthy, and then the other part of this is he's dealt with his off-season situation problem, and he's trying to look forward and not back. So I think he's just in the right frame of mind. In terms of what he has to do, if he can just show that he's truly healthy, I think he's going to have a great opportunity to win the job. But Joe Mather's another guy that missed most of last year because of injuries, and he wants to be in this competition, and in fairness, he will be.
The name that I hadn't heard, and we mentioned it out there when we were talking with Tony earlier today, your reigning minor league player of the year does have some experience over at third base, and Tony said that he might be a little bit more open to at least seeing him over there because he did hit well over 400 in spring training, never even got a look over at first base. I'm talking about Alan Craig, of course. Would you even be interested in watching him take ground balls over there because of the bat that he does bring?
Absolutely. He's someone that we have spoken about a little bit this offseason. Offensively, he just had a prolific 6-7 weeks last year at Memphis. He definitely deserves a look. We talked to him in the offseason to bring his third baseman's glove, and he's prepared to do it. The fact is it's good that we have these types of players to talk about and be able to inject them in a serious conversation about possibly a starting job.
Let me ask you a follow-up on Alan Craig. Just where is he defensively? And I know primarily you want to look at him in left field. Maybe can help you out at third or first in a pinch. But would his glove be a liability?
In fairness, I think he would be a below-average third baseman. I don't think it's the glove as much as his arm. I do think he can get to the ball. I think his hands work. Just doesn't throw with a lot of authority from that spot. And you have to make adjustments if that's happening. And I, frankly, I don't know if we have the confidence to say that's good. It could happen or not. But, that's what these first couple weeks are for, too, to give him a chance, see what he's capable of doing over there. And maybe with some extra time with Jose Oquendo and our infield group, it could improve.
But as a left fielder, or if you had to, like in a pinch, right field, can he – Alan Craig, is his mobility there to, like you said, go get the ball? I mean –
yeah. He can catch the ball. He's not going to ever be considered an above-average defensive outfielder, but I don't think he's a liability in the outfield.
As far as third base, Tony said he will not put somebody out there that is just a minus defender. If you said maybe right now below average. If he's average and David Freese is only marginally better defensively and offensively, he crushed the ball. Pretty much like what he did last year almost, and you see what you saw in the minor leagues. Can he get into that conversation, or right now is he just kind of another?
No, I think I definitely think he can. I think we might be minimizing Freese's potential with the bat as well in this conversation. But in fairness, they both bring a lot to the table, and the fact that we're debating it's great because that means we might have choices.
John Mozeliak with us here on 101 ESPN. Can you stick around for another segment?
Sure.
Why don't we take a break and do that right now? We'll go back to the studio. John Mozeliak will hang out with us on this beautiful day, this beautiful Monday in Jupiter. There was some forecasts of rain. Looks fine.
It's gotten better and better as the days go on.
It did rain this morning, for the record.
Looks fine, though.
Not when I was here.
So I brought the good weather, see?
You're amazing.
El Diablo, with him, the Joe Strauss, the storm clouds. I come down, birds are chirping, there's blue skies. How about that? We'll have part two of our conversation with John Mozeliak next here on 101 ESPN.